Greetings, Dr. Deptula and classmates. My name is Durando Walker, and this is my PowerPoint presentation on my leadership interview with Mr. Maitland Brown. So to begin with a brief abstract, Mr. Brown actually serves as a credit manager for a billion-dollar fuel company, and he's actually served in various leadership capacities over a 13-year course. His purview actually includes anti-money laundering, organizational training, mentorship, and leadership development. And notably, Maitland's ability to conceptualize a leadership development plan has significantly helped him to be able to assess his strengths and weaknesses and helped him to become the leader he is today. And so to ensure the success of the interview session, Maitland and I deliberated and we actually organized weekly sessions to discuss his leadership journey and the strategic steps taken to improve his leadership skills and qualities. And so this interview presentation details the dominant leadership style, as well as the models that were most descriptive of Mr. Brown. And it actually derives pertinent lessons learned from this leader and some very important challenges as well as rewards that he garnered in his leadership journey. The purpose of this presentation is really designed to analyze the leadership techniques, behavior, and skills the leader exhibits. This presentation is geared to accomplish an analysis of the following aspects of the leader life and would include an introduction, biography, leadership style and models, specific skills applied, lessons learned, as well as a conclusion. In terms of the leader's life, Maitland actually has been designated a subject matter expert with KYC procedures, and he's actually currently in the final stages of completing his Chief Compliance Officer course. Moreover, he actually successfully completed the Series 7 and has complemented it through his MBA with a concentration in finance. Maitland is a lover of language, and he's actually currently learning various languages such as the French, Italian, Japanese, Mandarin, Chinese, and Korean. But with it, he has a measure of difficulties or challenges. And so though he's a lover of language, that's something that he constantly works to improve on, as he believes that communication with others is very important. In terms of his affiliation, he actually functions as the chairman of the finance board meetings, and he also serves as stewardship in the union board team. In terms of his leadership role, he has served as a commercial and industrial sales executive. He also functioned as a senior account manager and credit manager. And so I chose Maitland to interview not primarily just because of his leadership roles, but because of his ability to actually remain committed and dedicated to customer experience and customer service, both internal as well as external. In terms of his leadership style, he actually exhibits a servant leadership style where he accredits his leadership pattern to be most essential when he actually places himself in the shoes of his followers. He actually motivates and encourages his team to be the best version of themselves and hold them accountable for their work and performance. And so Maitland's ability to not only motivate, but actually get the job done squarely defines that of an effective leader, which Dr. Deptula discusses. And just from personal observation, when persons within his division left for vacation, he recognized if the work was unaddressed, it would only compile. And he believed this was not an appropriate way to engage staff. So instead, he willfully took the lead and made it his mission to complete a great deal of his team members' assignments in order to relieve their burden upon their return. And so he deployed a situational leadership model in such instances, and he continues to do it throughout his career, whereby he utilizes the concept of the 10% stretch, where even though his work schedule could get cumbersome at times, he actually ensures that he withhold bi-weekly mandatory meetings with his team members to ensure that they remain engaged and they feel free to discuss any pertinent matters pertaining to the division. And with this in mind, when situations actually arise where there's an opportunity to upskill his team, he take hold of such opportunities. Furthermore, he demonstrates having a transformational leadership style, whereby he stimulates and motivates his staff members. And currently, he's spearheading the transition efforts being made to transform the work culture from one that is built on autocracy to one that actually upskills and promotes future leaders. And he has been tasked to organize leadership workshop or leadership exercises quarterly to aid in this initiative. And so he deploys here a team leadership model where he works to educate his followers. He works to develop or promote team composition, and he encourages the use of one's skills and abilities. In terms of the specific skills applied, the textbook written by Hugh, Ginnett, and Curfey actually deduces 5 sources of social power that my leader actually utilizes. In terms of referent power, Mr. Brown actually believes, as the old adage states, that respect and trust are earned and not given. He therefore works to empower and motivate and build trust between himself and his followers. In terms of expert power, his experience and wealth of knowledge attained over the years has helped him to mold or shape future leaders. In terms of reward power, he actually utilizes this form of power, but more scarcely, so as to avoid the punitive effects that could result because of an act of manipulation. And in terms of coercive power, he actually desires to be positive and supportive to his followers, and so he avoids the use of this particular form of power. And lastly, with legitimate power, he actually functions as the credit finance manager. In terms of lessons gleaned, Maitland learned various lessons along his leadership journey. And one notable lesson was his ability, where he has shown the capability to be trained. In fact, he has endured various personal attacks, but managed to remain calm and navigated through the assaults through it. And so he therefore believed other leaders could actually learn a valuable lesson from him on how to handle adversity and challenges and actually put things back in perspective. Furthermore, other leaders could develop or utilize a constructive thought process when devising techniques so that they could utilize it to improve their self-image and become their best self. And so for me personally, I believe to become a leader, one has to be able to empower, motivate, and actually remain adaptable and able to withhold or withstand change and challenges as they come about. In terms of the positive lessons gleaned, to fortify his team, Maitland actually deploys the use of a cluster segmentation analysis, whereby he's able to capitalize from the feedback, reviews, behaviors, and communicate best practices. And from probing a person with an innocuous question and making it seem as though he requires assistance with it, or even proposing a solution and discussing it thoroughly, to analyzing the person's level of understanding before leaving, he actually employs different tactics to really and truly educate his team members and shore up their skill set to develop and maintain a high-performing team. One negative lesson, sadly gleaned, is the fact that one, as a leader, one doesn't have to micromanage or be overtly or overly bent in order for them to lead in such capacity. And so, in conclusion, great leaders have the following in common as deduced by Lunningberg. They have the vision to achieve, and they also have the personal power to enact it. And so change to Maitland is an inevitability. He believes it's important to understand it and equally important to know when to challenge it. In fact, he appreciates innovation and oftentimes is tasked with identifying challenges that come about from new initiatives. And so one thing I gathered from Maitland is one specific skill set that stood out was that where he practices physiognomy, where he believes it's important to be able to read, underline, and tactics of one's staff to draw and promote staff members' full potential. So these are my references, and I thank you for watching.